Betta Sororities. This is my Betta Sorority. The tank is a little bit of a mess because I did not cap off the soil I didn't cap off the soil with a thick enough layer of sand, so it keeps getting dug up every single time I do a water change or try to move anything. Then I get floating soil at the top. So one of the first things I kind of wanted to bring to the attention, seeing as it seems like a popular topic right now, is Betta sororities, what's good, what's bad. So I figured I would talk about my sorority tank and maybe some of the things that I have had work for me. And these ladies, this is a 10-gallon tank that was heavily planted. I've had some melt over in this corner over here. I'm actually not sure what it is. I think it's some sort of wisteria, possibly. But it melted off a little bit, but that's not too big of an issue. There are actually 6 females in here, and typically one of the first things that people talk about when it comes to a sorority tank is to make sure that there is 5, 7, always an uneven number of beta. Now, I have 6 females in here, and I have no issues with them whatsoever. They have been perfectly fine. The first 24 hours they had their little squabbles, got it over and done with and out of the way, and ever since then they've literally been pretty much perfect. The only thing is, on occasion they do nip at each other, but that's pretty much standard beta behavior. The dominant female, as I've discovered, there is one of them that's always kind of the boss of the others, and she will tell the other ones off. Now, I haven't really seen exactly which one of these females is the dominant one right now. I haven't been able to pinpoint it just yet. And actually, I'm missing one of the females. She's in there somewhere. I found her sleeping in the top of the tank last night, so let's see if she's up there. And she is fast asleep up here again. So this is one of the reasons you absolutely need floating plants, and that's why I actually didn't replant all of this stuff, just for the pure and simple fact that they actually love sleeping in it. She is a little crown tail female, and that is where she was asleep last night, so apparently that is her place and her place only. And she clearly feels very, very comfortable because she is sleeping with the lights on. Yeah, so I guess I'll let her take her nap. These little ladies, as you can see, they're all pretty much chunky little ladies. I bred all of these females. And why do I think this particular beta sorority works? Quite simply, for me, is because I know the characteristics of all of these ladies. I had these ladies separate from the age that they were starting, from jarring age. They were separate for about 5-6 months. I did not put them together, so these ladies are actually probably about 8 months old now. They've been in this tank now probably about 8 weeks, and genuinely minimal trouble from any of them. And some of the success, I believe, that I've had with this tank has been because I know their personalities. That's one of the biggest things. if you've got a fish that is particularly dominant over the others, it can actually lead to the other group turning on that one and actually killing that particular female. And I have had that in a past sorority before. And then what happened was because the dominant female was picking on the other females, they then decided to gang up on the dominant female, and they actually killed the dominant female, but in turn they actually got pretty badly damaged themselves and ended up all getting very, very sick from it. So it's definitely what I will call the forbidden fruit tank. It's one of those things, everyone wants them. They probably shouldn't be done, but they do work with the correct knowledge and providing very, very basic necessities for them. There is quite a lot of plants. As you can see, there's a lot of plant area. There's a lot of floating stuff at the top. The flower pot there is fantastic for them because they can get inside of it and they can actually break, and behind it. So one can be inside, one can be behind it, and that breaks their line of sight, which often actually diffuses a situation where there's one being dominant over the others. If the one that is being picked on can get out of the line of sight from the dominant female, then she often will lose interest and the squabble will be over, and eventually she will come out from hiding and she'll be fine. Obviously, one of the biggest things with this tank that I personally make sure I do is every single water change, I always make sure that there is aquarium salt in these tanks. A lot of people don't realize that betta actually have teeth, and when they do nip at each other, even if it's just a little bit of fin nipping, the bacteria can actually get in there and set in fairly quick. And betta being so, because betta are such hardy little fish, often you don't see that there's a problem until there really is a problem and somebody's not doing well. So I always try to make sure that there is salt, aquarium salt in the tank, every single water change, just to make sure that should they have any damage from bickering that I haven't noticed, then, you know, the bacterial infections hopefully won't set in as easily and the fish will be able to heal nicely. Now, one of the big factors of this tank and its success is regular schedules. Nothing too drastic to change the balance of this tank, and feeding, keeping them entertained. These little guys are so curious with everything, but if you disturb the balance in this tank, so if I went into this tank and started moving things around, it could potentially stress them out enough that they would actually turn on each other and try and re-establish dominance. So once your betta sorority is established, which is usually within the first 48 hours, first 24 hours, I apologize. If your fish are still not getting on after 24 hours, it's often time to pull them. Actually, with betta, you've got to be extremely vigilant, especially if you're doing a sorority tank, for the pure and simple fact that these guys can really do some serious damage really fast, and actually in a matter of hours can actually kill each other. So it's definitely, you definitely have to be extremely vigilant with these tanks. I don't recommend them if you are someone who just thinks grabbing a bunch of betta and shoving them in the tank is going to be a suitable option. It's not. You really need to do your research on them. You really need to know your fish's dispositions almost. As you can see right now, these guys have just started bickering, for probably because they went over to the top of the tank and they didn't get food. So now they're probably squabbling amongst each other because there was no food put in. I did have one issue with the the one female, this one female here, she, one second, this one, she actually did develop Popeye, and I'm assuming that that was a dominance clash that they had, and she probably had a little bit of a bacterial infection going on in there. But within 24 hours, the swelling subsided. She still has a little bit of a cloudy eye. But apart from that, as you can see, she is feisty as ever, quite happily doing her thing. I'm sorry about the reflection of my hand there. But these tanks are so rewarding when they're going right, but they can go downhill so fast. And I definitely don't recommend this kind of tank for a beginner. However, I'm also not going to tell you don't do it, because in fish keeping, it's not necessarily don't do it because you're not supposed to do it. It's more of you need to trial and error your own. You need to make your own mistakes in order for you to learn what works and what doesn't work. But if you set your tank up to have multiple areas for the betta to be able to get away, such as the big leafy plant that I have here, they can get in there and break their line of sight. They can get in the flower pot and behind the flower pot to break their line of sight. They can get behind the sponge filter, and there's rocks also in the back. There's a lot of mulm on the floor and some dirt in there too. But the rock in the back, they can get behind the rocks so they can't see each other, and sometimes I find them sleeping down here. And just those simple breaks of the line of sight actually help a whole lot. Learning the character of your fish is absolutely paramount, because if you have one fish that is extremely feisty, it's most likely going to pick on everybody else, and everyone's going to end up getting sick. And I don't recommend that. But if you're a beginner that wants to start a betta sorority, absolutely go ahead and do so. I'm not going to be the one to tell you don't do it, but I'm going to be the one for sure to tell you to do it with caution. Betta sororities do work very, very well most of the time, but these guys are called fighting fish for a reason, and if things go wrong, you need to be prepared that you need extra tanks on the ready to go should somebody get beaten up real bad by the other fish.